Okay, so hopefully you're very comfortable with this type of problem by now. We spent a lot of time practicing these last week. So ask yourself first, is there a common factor among all the terms that you can factor out? And there's not other than one. So that means we're going to be reverse FOILing here. So you're setting it up like this, right? You're thinking about the fact that x times x will give you x squared. What goes, whoops, I was frozen. What goes in the blanks then has to, remember, multiply to 5 and add to 6 at the same time. So think about that. There's only 1 and 5, or yeah, 1 and 5. That's it, right? That's the only factors of 5. So this one is super straightforward. It's just going to be x plus 1, x plus 5. If you FOIL that out, right, the outer and inner are going to add to 6 at the same time, okay? So I've been telling you that what's coming up, though, is we're going to look at when there's a number on the x squared besides just a 1. And so we're still going to think about reverse FOILing, but it's just going to change things a little bit when that leading coefficient is something other than 1, okay? So that's what we're going to be jumping into today. So I'm going to give you a handout here. Actions are going to help us walk through this step by step for this first one, okay? So we're going to take a look at this right here, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So ask yourself first, always, is there a greatest common factor other than 1 among these three terms? And there's not. 1 is the only thing that they can all be divided by, okay? So we're always going to keep in mind FOIL. We're going to start with first, okay? So I'm just going to write this down for a second. What goes in your first two blanks has to multiply to give you 2x squared. So I picked 2 for us to look at for our first example because 2 is a prime number. So the only way we're going to get that is 1 times 2, right? So it's going to have to be 1x and 2x in our first blanks. So I already have that filled in for you, okay? So now what we're going to do, we thought about first already, how to get 2x squared. We're going to jump ahead and think about last for a minute, okay? I want you to forget about the middle term for a second. I want you to jump ahead and think about this guy. So whatever goes in these two blanks has to give you a product of 3, okay? Because if you think about FOILing this out, again, forget about outer and inner for a minute. First has to give you 2x squared and last has to give you 3. So for a moment, we're just going to forget about outer and inner. So I want you to think about how can you get a product of 3? And let's fill in the blank here. So the only way to get a product of 3 is 1 and 3, right? So look at what this means, though, okay? This is where things are going to get different here from when the leading coefficient was 1. We could either, so we got to have 2x and x in our first blank, okay? And we got to have 1 and 3 in the other blank. However, it matters whether I put 1 here and 3 here, or 3 here and 1 here. Now, let's watch why, okay? What you're gonna have to do with this method is there's gonna be a little bit of guess and check. We're going to FOIL out both of these and see which one matches what we're looking for right here, okay? So it can be either one of these two answers. The only way you know which one is to FOIL it out. So walk through this with me, okay? 2x times x is going to give me 2x squared. Make sure you're doing this on your paper with me. Outer, 2x times 3 is going to give us 6x. Inner, 1 times x is going to give us 1x. Last, 1 times 3 is 3. Let's go over and do this one. 2x times x is 2x squared. Outer, 2x times 1 is 2x. Do you notice the difference so far? Over here, 2x got multiplied by 3, okay? But here, 2x is getting multiplied by 1. That's why the order matters, okay? So then your inner 3 times x is going to give you 3x, and then last 3 times 1 is 3. So let's simplify each one now. This one is going to be 2x squared plus 6x plus 1x is 7x, okay, plus 3. So they're both going to have 2x squared and 3 in them, but it's that middle term now that will tell us which one is the right answer. This one would be 2x squared plus 5x, right? Combine the 2x and the 3x plus 3. Now we were trying to factor 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. So we now know that one gave us the answer. So we now know that this one is the correct factorization. So the final answer is 2x plus 3 times x plus 1, because when we had it this way, 2x plus 1 times x plus 3, it gave us 2x squared plus 7x. We need it to be plus 5x, okay? So again, an overview, these directions, I wanted to give you the handout because the directions we walked through on the first one together are going to help you know the process on all of them in the future, okay? You start with first and last. But then from there, it's literally guess and check. Like you have to think of all the different combinations until you find the one that foils out to the correct answer, okay? Do you have questions yet at all? We'll be doing a lot more examples so you can get the hang of it, okay? Yeah. Yeah, grab a pass. All right, so let's try another one, okay? So we have factor 3x squared plus 22x plus 7. So again, I want you to think about in FOIL, we're going to think about this guy, okay? 3, again, I picked another prime number for these first couple because the only way to get 3x squared would be 3x times x, right? So we're going to put 3x and 1x. Now I want you to jump ahead and think about last. So guys, again, this is different than your warm-up. It doesn't work to find two numbers that multiply to this and add to this. It's not going to work that way when this number is something besides a 1, okay? So just jump ahead and think about this guy only. Positive 7. What are the ways to get a positive 7? There'd be 1 and 7 or 7 and 1. Again, it matters because if we put 7 here and 1 here, look at your other possible combination. Let's keep 3x and 1x, okay? Except let's flip-flop this and put 1 here and 7 here. You know, that's still a product of 7, but again, flipping it is going to change your answer. So what we have to do now is we have to see which one are the outer and inner going to match this on, okay? So let's go through this and let's FOIL each one of them out now to see which one's the right answer. So here we have 3x times x, which is 3x squared. Outer, 3x times 1 is going to give you 3x. Inner, 7 times x is 7x. Last, 7 times 1 is 7. So then combine your middle terms. 3x plus 7x is going to give us 10x, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the middle term to be 22x. So hopefully the second one is going to work. Again, it's just guess and check. But the more you do it, guys, the better you'll get at finding the combinations sooner as you work them out, okay? So like it might make sense to you that 7 needs to be here so that it can get multiplied by 3 because that's going to give you what 7 times 3 is 21, right? Like it's going to get you close to 22. So you'll get better at them as you go. But anyway, let's FOIL it. 3 times x is 3x squared. Outer that I already drew here gives us 21x. Inner, 1 times x. And last, 1 times 7. Again, look at your middle terms. 21 plus 1 is 22, and that's what we wanted. So this is now 3x squared plus 22x plus 7. And so that means this right here is our final answer. 3x plus 1 times x plus 7 is the correct factorization because when we FOILed it out, we got the original expression back again. Okay? Questions so far? All right, so moving on to the next one. I'm going to help you get started on first, okay? Again, I gave you another prime number. The only way to get 5 is 1 times 5, so it's going to have to be 5x and 1x. So guys, leave those in the same spots, okay? Like, did you notice on the last one how you don't want to change too many things or you're going to end up with the exact same combination again? I always leave these in the same spot and flip-flop these, okay? So there could be, it's going to have to be 5x and 1x. I want you to jump ahead to last and think about all the combinations of numbers that could go right here, okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about this one on your own and see if you can figure it out. So 4 is not a prime number this time, right? So there's going to be a couple more ways to get it. Now, again, it could be 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. However, you could put the 1 here and the 4 here, or the 4 here and the 1 here. Again, do you see why it matters? Because like in the first combination, 5 is getting multiplied by 4, which gives you 20. But in this second combination, 5 is getting multiplied by 1. So this is why the order matters, okay? And then you could also have 2 times 2, right? Now, these first couple, I'm making you just list them all, but really, when you find the combination that works, you can stop, okay? Like, let's say my first one that I wrote down was the right answer, then I don't have to keep going, okay? But I got to check outer and inner now. I got to see if this works. So FOIL them out and see which one is the right answer. 5x times 1 gives you 5x times 1x, sorry, gives you 5x squared. Outer gives you 20x. Inner gives you 1x, and then last gives you 4. We already know first and last are going to work, right? Because we set it up that way. But the outer and inner, 20 plus 1, it's going to give us 21x. That's not what we're looking for. So we know that the first one is not the right answer, okay? So keep going until you find the right one. 5x times 1x is 5x squared. Outer, 5x times 1 is 5x. Inner is 4x. Last is 4. Again, you already know the first and last are going to work out. You got to check your outer and inner. 5x plus 4x is 9x, which again is not what we're looking for. So maybe on your paper, maybe you got lucky and listed this one first, right? Maybe you did 2 times 2 before you did 1 times 4. This is the combination that's going to work. 5x times x is 5x squared. Outer, 5 times 2 is going to give you 10x. Inner is going to give you 2x. And last, again, we already know is going to be 4 because we set it up that way. But look at your outer and inner. 10 plus 2 is 12, which is what we wanted. So this is the combination that works. So we know that the final answer, the correct factorization, is this one because it gives us what we wanted here, okay? So, you know, that's a lot of work. Circle which one is your final answer here or rewrite it or something, okay? It's got to be 5x plus 2 and x plus 2. Now, the factors could be flip-flopped. Do you understand this? Like, I could have the x plus 2 first and then the 5x plus 2. That would still FOIL out to the right answer, okay? So if you flip the whole entire factors, that would be fine. But again, notice like between this and this, those didn't give us the same answers. So if you just flip-flop one number, those aren't the same thing. So just be careful about that, okay? All right. This one, I'm going to help you get started on just because I want you to understand how many different combinations there are this time because 6 is not a prime number, right? So just in the first, like you could have 6 times 1, right? Or you could have 3 times 2. But then in the last spot, you could have 5 times 1, or this could be reversed. That's why there's going to be another combination here. Like this could be 1 and this could be 5, okay? Or 5 here and 1 here. With keep the 3 and the 2, but flip these. Again, you don't want to flip the 3 and the 2 and the 5 and the 1 because then you'll end up with just the same combination again. Like I would only flip the last number. Like I would keep the first ones in the same positions, okay? So now I'm going to give you some time to FOIL these out and try and figure out which one is the correct answer, okay? Again, once you find it, you can stop. You don't have to FOIL them all out if you find this correct answer like on the first or second try, okay? Okay, again, guys, as you do more and more of these, you're going to get better and better at it. Like you might look at all these combinations and think like, I'm pretty sure I know which one is going to be the one that works because I know what's going to get me close to the 17 that I want or something like that, okay? So like I'm going to jump down here. Instead of foiling all 4 of these out, I'm going to jump down here, for example. This gives me 6x squared. Outer gives me 3x. Inner gives me 10x. And last gives me 5. So, you know, check your outer and inner there. 3x plus 10x is 13x. So that's not quite what we want yet. Kind of close, though. So then go ahead and I'm going to check this one. So we're going to have 3x times 2x, 6x squared. Outer 3x times 5 is 15x. Inner 1 times 2x is 2x. Last 1 times 5 is 5. Again, you already know first and last are going to work because you set it up that way on purpose. The outer and inner this time, 15x plus 2x gives me 17x. And that's what I wanted, right? Go back to the question. 6x squared plus 17x plus 5 is what we were trying to factor. So we know that this one is the right answer. So I'm just going to write it a little bit nicer down here. 3x plus 1 times 2x plus 5. Again, it would be okay to have the 2x plus 5 first, okay, and then 3x plus 1. How many of you figured out the correct factorization for this one? Good. Okay, again, maybe you sat here and foiled these ones out too before you got to the right answer. That's fine. Just keep in mind, once you find the right answer, you can stop, okay? If you haven't found the right answer yet, you got to keep trying different combinations until you do. So now go back to your directions at the front of the page again. This is something, I apologize, that I tend to forget to ask you guys sometimes because it's kind of so second nature for me that I just look at it and I know when there's not a greatest common factor, okay? But you really should be asking yourself that every time. We talked about it in the first one, and then I forgot to ask you on the other ones. There was no greatest common factor other than 1 on these other ones, okay? Like there's nothing that goes into 3, 22, and 7. There's nothing that goes into 5, 12, and 4. Nothing that goes into 6, 17, and 5. Now, I told you this one is different because there is a greatest common factor this time. When there is, you have to factor that out first. Remember, this is like the reverse of the distributive property. So all that I want you to do right now is figure out what these 3 terms have in common, and I want you to rewrite this in this format. Okay, what happens when you factor out the greatest common factor, reversive distributive property? That's all I want you to do right now. So they all have in common 2. They can all be divided by 2. So we're going to put 2 out front, which means we need to divide every term by 2. So now it's going to become 4x squared, because 8 divided by 2 is 4, plus 37x plus 9. Are you with me so far? I just divided everything by 2. Now, I want you to go through, we're just going to put the 2 in the front of any combination we work with, and we're not going to worry about it anymore then, okay? That's it. It will just be in the front in our final answer. We now are only going to be looking at this, so you completely forget about the 2, all right? So now look at what I highlighted. You're trying to find 2 things that multiply to 4x squared, right? So it could be like 4x and 1x, or it could be 2x and 2x, all right? Then you're thinking about last, so think about the 9. So it could be like a 9 here and a 1 here, right? 9 times 1 is 9. Or maybe it's going to be the 4 here and the 1 here, but a 1 here and 9 here instead. Again, that's a different combination because think about it. Here, 4 gets multiplied by 1. Here, 4 gets multiplied by 9. So your outer and inner are going to be completely different if you switch those, okay? But maybe it's 4x and 1x, but maybe think about other ways to get 9. Maybe it's 3 times 3. When these numbers are not prime, there's going to be a lot more combinations, okay? And again, as you do this more and more, hopefully you'll get better at it and get a little quicker at it. But let's keep going here. You could have now instead 2x and 2x and 9 and 1. Now here it wouldn't make sense to flip the 1 and the 9. Do you understand that? It wouldn't be a different combination since these are the same number this time, okay? It mattered up top when it was a 4 versus a 1. But it's 2 and a 2 again, so it doesn't matter. But then you could have 2x and 2x and 3 and 3, right? Do all those different combinations make sense to you? How any one of those could possibly work because they all are going to give you 4x squared for the first and 9 for the last. Okay, so again, you look through them and you think to yourself, which one do I think might foil out to give me this again? Again, don't worry about the 2. We're done with that part, okay? I want you to just go through and just like foil this part out until you find the one that gives you this back again, okay? So go ahead and work on that for a minute on your own. Okay, so again, what we have to do is just FOIL them out till we find the right answer. So 4x times 1 would give you 4x squared. Outer, 4x times 1 is 4x. Inner, 9 times 1 is 9x. And last, 9 times 1 is 9. My outer and inner, 4x plus 9x is 13x. Now, don't forget, guys, you're looking for the answer that I highlighted, not the original answer. Remember that? Because the original answer is they're all doubled, like we're trying to match this. So this is not the right answer, right? We need our outer and inner to be 37x. So let's go on and try the next one. 4x times 1x is 4x squared. Outer, 4x times 9 is 36x. Again, you may have thought to yourself that that might be the combination that works because it's close to this. 1 times 1 is 1x. And then 1 times 9 is 9. This is going to be the one that works because look at your outer and inner. They add up to 37, which is what we wanted. So 36 plus 1 is going to give us 37x here. So we know that this is the correct answer, including the 2, right? To get this back to the original answer, you would now have to take this and multiply it all by the 2 that we pulled out in the beginning. See how that would give us 8x squared, 37x, and 18 back again, okay? So don't forget to, this part only gives us this back. We have to make sure we include that 2 out in front in our final answer to give us the original expression back, okay? So again, that means our final answer is 2 times 4x plus 1 times x plus 9. Again, if you have the x plus 9 first, then the 4x plus 1, that's fine, okay? But it has to be, like the 4x and the 1 have to be in the same set of parentheses. Questions on that one at all? All right. Number 5. Now, guys, here's the thing you have to be careful of. Make sure your eyes are up here, okay? Because you may look at this and think that there's not a greatest common factor between -4 and 12 and 7 other than 1. However, again, guys, please look up here. When there is a leading coefficient that's negative, I don't know if you remember this from back when we talked about it originally, we need the leading coefficient to be positive, okay? So even though these guys have nothing in common but 1, we're going to factor out a -1, okay? So like reverse distributive property, remember how we factored out a 2 on the last question? We're going to factor out a -1. So you got to think to yourself, what happens if I divide -1 out of everything, okay? So -4 divided by -1 is going to make that positive 4x squared. Positive 12 divided by -1 is now going to make that -12x. And then positive 7 divided by -1 is going to make that -7, okay? Again, please make sure you're fixing this if you worked ahead like I asked you not to, because your answer is going to be different. If the leading coefficient is negative, you have to factor out a -1, okay? So look, that changed the signs on everything. So now we're just going to put that -1 that we factored out, we're just going to put it in the front, just like we did with 2 on that other one, okay? Now, again, I'm going to highlight this. We're just focusing on this part now. Forget about the -1. So let's talk about first. First is 4x squared. So maybe it's going to be 4x and 1x. Maybe it's going to be 2x and 2x, okay? There's 4 is not a prime number, right? So there's different combinations. Now, we haven't had any like this yet, okay? The first few we looked at, I gave you all positive numbers. Let's jump ahead and look at this guy. It's a -7 this time, okay? So think about the ways to get a product of -7. Maybe it's going to be -7 and +1. Maybe it's going to be still +1 and -7, but maybe the 1's here and the -7's here, okay? Or maybe think about this. the signs are going to make a difference. Maybe it's this combination, except maybe it's positive 7 and negative 1, okay? Or maybe it's positive 7, negative 1, or negative 7, positive 1, okay? Like there's so many different combinations. So the ones that I've listed here are not even all the possible combinations. There'd even be more this time because of the fact that it makes a difference whether this is negative or this is positive, and it matters whether the 7 is here or here, okay? So again, I'm going to let you just play around with it for a little bit until you find the combination that foils back out to what's highlighted, okay? Again, don't worry about this negative 1 out front. Just foil them out till you find the one that matches what I have highlighted. Okay, so I have foiled out a few of these. So this first one, the middle terms, watch your signs now that we have some negatives involved. 4 minus 7, that's going to give us negative 3x, which is not what we're looking for. Guys, jump down to this one for a second because I want you to notice this. Look how close these combinations are. Do you see how all I do is have opposite signs? Like one of them has negative 7, one has positive 7. So watch what's going to happen in that situation. Negative 4x plus 7x is positive 3x this time. So do you see how these combinations are so close? It's just that this one gave us positive and this one negative. So like if you get really close to the answer, but you're just opposite of what you need, it just means you need to switch your signs, okay? This one, again, watch your signs. Negative 28 plus 1 is negative 27. So I'm going to write minus 27x here, which is not what we want. This one, negative 2 plus 14 is positive 12x. So I need to write plus 12x as my middle term. And that is the correct combination. Wait a second. Sorry, guys. Remember, don't look at your original expression. Make sure you're looking at what I highlighted. We have to get negative 12, and this gave me positive 12. So this is what I was trying to tell you earlier. If you get that close, it means this is almost the right combination. It just means that it needs to be a negative 7. Like, don't flip the numbers. Just change the signs when you're this close, okay? It just needs to be a negative 7 and a plus 1 instead. This should be the combination that works. Foil it out and check it. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Don't know why I wrote 2. Outer is 2x. Inner is negative 14x. And last is negative 7. So that's going to give you 4x squared minus 12x minus 7, which is what we wanted, right? That matches the highlighted part. And then if we actually took this negative 1 and multiplied it by that, it would give us the original expression back again, okay? So again, don't forget to include that negative 1 out front in your answer here. This is our final answer, okay? All right, listen, I want you to jump to number 8 because that's another one where look at your signs for me. We don't have all positives this time, okay? So like instead of plus and plus, I messed these up when I typed them. I should have left that blank, but you're not going to use all positive numbers this time. Think about the other way to get a positive product is a negative times a negative, right? So this time you're going to have like both numbers are going to have to be negative. Do you understand the one we just did? We needed one positive and one negative because it had to give us a product of a negative. This time it's a positive, but because this guy's negative, it must mean they both are going to be negative, okay? Anyway, ask yourself first, is there a greatest common factor other than 1? And there's not. And also, the leading coefficient is positive, so we don't have to factor out a negative 1 or anything like we did on that last one. All right, so set this up for yourself. I'm going to let you try this one all on your own this time, okay? So think to yourself, what is my first going to look like? If I need to get 4x squared, what are the combinations I could use to give me 4x squared? Then think about what are the combinations that I could use to give me 21. Keeping in mind that they're both going to have to be, it's going to have to be a negative times a negative, okay? So you go ahead and spend some time on this one on your own. So again, if we think about FOIL, the first term has to give us 4x squared. So maybe it's going to be 4x and 1x. Maybe it's going to be 2x and 2x. The last has to give us positive 21. So again, you don't want to use positive 1, positive 21, positive 3, positive 7. They have to both be negative, right? Remember, that's the other way to get a positive product. So I went ahead and changed all my signs up here. Again, the reason we know they're both going to have to be negative is because they have to add to a negative. If you use two positive numbers, they're going to add to a positive. They're going to have to both be negative this time, okay? So it could be like -1 and -21, or maybe that's flipped around, right? Again, the order matters because here 4 is going to get multiplied by 21. Here 4 is going to get multiplied by 1. You're going to get totally different answers, okay? For x minus 3, we could have a -3 and -7 gives you a product of 21, right? Like that'll work for last. You could have 2x and -21 and -1. Or you could have the -7 and -3, okay? Lots of different combinations that are going to work. So I'm not going to stand here and FOIL them all out this time, but I'm going to tell you that this is going to be the bottom one that I wrote is going to be the one that works, okay? So again, maybe you're starting to be able to find the one that works quicker than having to write all of these out, okay? I went through in class today showing you all the different possible combinations because I need you to understand how many like different arrangements there are, okay? But again, once you find the arrangement that works, you stop. You're done with the problem, okay? So the sooner you find it, the sooner you're done. Some of them might take you a little bit longer. What's up, Katsu?
I made my essence negative. Is that?
Nope, you got to have, because our leading coefficient is positive. So it's got to be +4 and +1x.
Like, I negative